The Galactic Unity Academy station floated in the quiet darkness between three star systems. It was a massive structure, built over 200 years ago when the first alliance of spacefaring species decided that young people from different worlds should learn together. The station had classrooms, dormitories, laboratories, gardens that grew plants from 50 different planets, and cafeterias that served food for beings who ate everything from rocks to pure light. In Classroom 7 on the education deck, Professor Al was preparing for his favorite lesson of the year. He was an species with a hard brown shell, 6 limbs, and compound eyes that could see in multiple spectrums of light. His mandibles clicked together as he arranged his notes on the holographic display. The Xenobiology course was one of the most popular classes at the Academy. Students came from dozens of worlds to learn about life forms from across the galaxy. Today, Al would assign the project he had been looking forward to all semester. Students began filing into the room. First came a group of Florians, beings made of living crystal that grew on a cold world near the galaxy's edge. Their bodies caught the light and threw tiny rainbows across the walls as they moved. Behind them came the tall and thin with long necks and 3 eyes each. They were herbivores, descended from herd animals that had once roamed endless grasslands. They were known throughout the galaxy for being nervous and cautious about everything. I entered next, a stocky being with gray skin and small dark eyes. They were one of the few predator species that had achieved and joined the galactic community. They had evolved past their hunting instincts long ago, but other species still felt slightly uncomfortable around them. More students arrived. A being made of living water contained in a special suit. A pair of winged creatures from a high-gravity world. A tall, plant-like alien who communicated through chemical signals. The classroom filled with the sounds of different languages, all being processed by translator devices into something everyone could understand. Near the back of the room, a young human woman found her usual seat. Her name was Price, and she was 23 years old. She had brown hair that she kept tied back in a practical ponytail, and her skin was the light tan color that came from spending time under artificial sunlight. She was one of only 4 humans attending the academy that year. Humans were still new to the galactic community. First contact had happened only 18 years ago, when an exploration ship had stumbled upon Earth while mapping an unexplored region of the galaxy. The meeting had been peaceful, if confusing for both sides, and humanity had quickly begun the process of joining the wider universe. Had applied to the academy because she loved biology. Back on Earth, she had studied animal behavior and ecology at a university in a place called Montana. When she learned that there was a school where she could study life forms from hundreds of different worlds, she had immediately begun working toward acceptance. It had not been easy. Humans were still considered unpredictable and strange by many galactic species. The early reports about Earth had caused considerable concern among the Alliance's leaders, but had worked hard, passed all the entrance examinations, and earned her place in the program. Her best friend at the academy was unnamed. He was young for his species, only about 40 years old, which made him roughly equivalent to in terms of development. His fur was a pale gray color, and his 3 eyes were large and often worried-looking. Like most, he was easily startled and preferred to think carefully before taking any action. Settled into the seat beside and bent his long neck to speak quietly to her. I heard that today's assignment will be about predators. This makes me nervous. Smiled at him. Everything makes you nervous. This is true, he admitted. But predators especially. On my world, we have stories about predators that parents tell children to keep them from wandering too far from the herd. The stories are very frightening. What kind of predators does your world have? Shuddered, his gray fur rippling. Sand runners, they hunt in packs and can chase prey for many kilometers, and sky shadows, they drop from above with no warning, and the deep burrowers which pull victims underground. His 3 eyes blinked rapidly. My people have developed many strategies for avoiding all of them. We are very good at running away. That sounds stressful, said. It is our way, the survive by being careful and fast. We do not fight predators. We flee from them and warn others of danger. Tilted his head. How do humans deal with predators on your world? Before could answer, Professor Al called the class to attention. His mandibles clicked sharply, a sound that all the translator devices rendered as a request for silence. The students settled down and focused on their teacher. "Welcome, students," Al said. His voice was a series of clicks and hisses that the translators turned into smooth speech. "Today we begin one of my favorite units in this course. We will be studying apex predators from across the galaxy." A murmur went through the room. Several students shifted uncomfortably. The in particular seemed to draw closer together, an instinctive herd response to the mention of predators. "Apex predators are fascinating creatures," the professor continued. "They sit at the top of their food chains. They have evolved over millions of years to become efficient hunters. They shape the ecosystems they live in, controlling population levels of prey species and influencing the behavior of every creature around them." He touched a control, and a holographic image appeared in the center of the room. It showed a creature from a world called a serpent-like being with 6 eyes and fangs that dripped venom. "The razor serpent of," Al said. "A perfect ambush predator. It can remain motionless for days, waiting for prey to come within striking distance. Its venom can dissolve organic tissue in seconds." The image changed to show a massive creature that looked like a living mountain of muscle and teeth. "The thunder beast of prime, a pursuit predator that can run at speeds exceeding 100 kilometers per hour. It hunts in pairs, with one beast driving prey toward the other." More images followed, a cloud of tiny organisms that worked together as a swarm, stripping prey down to bone in minutes. A plant-like creature that lured victims with beautiful flowers before trapping them in digestive pods. A being made of living electricity that shocked prey into paralysis. "For your assignment," Al announced, "each of you will bring a specimen or representation of a predator from your home world to our next class. We will examine these predators together and discuss their evolutionary adaptations, hunting strategies, and ecological roles." A Florian student raised a crystalline limb. The translator rendered her voice as musical and high-pitched. "Professor, what counts as a predator for this assignment? There are many different types of hunting behaviors across different worlds." "Excellent question, Al said. "For this assignment, I am looking for any creature that actively hunts other life forms for food. Carnivores, omnivores with hunting behaviors, ambush specialists, pursuit predators. The more dangerous the creature, the more interesting our discussion will be." "Are there safety requirements?" asked a nervous student. "Yes, of course. All specimens must be properly contained. Living creatures must be in approved containment fields. Dangerous organic material must be sealed. Holographic representations are acceptable if bringing the actual creature is not possible." The professor's mandibles clicked in what seemed like amusement. "I do not want anyone getting eaten in my classroom." Several students laughed nervously at this joke. They did not seem to find it funny at all. "You have until tomorrow to prepare your presentations," Al said. "I expect everyone to participate. This is a significant portion of your grade for this unit." The class was dismissed, and students began gathering their belongings and filing out. Remained in her seat for a moment, thinking about the assignment. She knew exactly what she wanted to bring, but she would need to make some arrangements first. Lingered beside her. "What will you bring for the assignment? I confess that I know very little about Earth predators." "I have an idea," said. "My aunt runs a wildlife rehabilitation center back on Earth. She takes care of injured and orphaned animals. I'm going to call her tonight and see if she can help." "A rehabilitation center for predators?" Sounded confused. "Why would your people care for predators? Would it not be safer to simply avoid them?" Smiled. "Humans have a complicated relationship with predators. We'll talk about it more tomorrow." "This is mysterious," said. "But I suppose I will see tomorrow. I need to go prepare my own presentation now. I will bring information about the sand runners of my world." "Good luck," said. After left, made her way to the communication center on the station's residential deck. The room was designed to handle calls across the vast distances of space, using a network of relay stations that could transmit signals faster than light. A call to Earth would still take a few minutes to connect, but that was much better than the years it would have taken with old technology. Entered a private booth and input her aunt's contact code. The screen flickered for a moment, and then a woman's face appeared. She looked to be in her 50s, with gray-streaked brown hair and kind eyes surrounded by smile lines. What a nice surprise. How are things at that fancy space school of yours? Hi, Aunt, things are good, really interesting actually, I'm learning so much. Leaned forward. Listen, I have a favor to ask, a big one. Aunt raised an eyebrow. This sounds serious, what do you need? We have an assignment tomorrow. We're supposed to bring a predator from our home world to class, something dangerous and impressive, and I was thinking. You were thinking about my tigers, Aunt finished. Specifically, I was thinking about Maple and Copper, the cubs you've been hand-raising since they were bobbies. They're socialized, they're friendly, they're used to humans, and they're also incredibly impressive predators even at their age. Aunt was quiet for a moment, then she laughed. You want to take tiger cubs to your alien school to show your alien classmates what Earth predators are like. Pretty much, yeah. Well, Aunt said, still smiling, I suppose that would be educational. Those cubs have been getting restless lately anyway. A field trip might be good for them. She became more serious. You're sure it's safe? They're friendly, but they're still wild animals at heart. I'll be careful, promised. And I know these too. I helped you raise them when I was home last summer. They know me, they trust me. It'll be fine. All right, I'll arrange transport through the Earth Embassy on the station. There will be paperwork, and you'll need to pick them up from the shuttle bay yourself. Aunt pointed a finger at the screen. And take care of my bobbies. They may be predators, but they're still my responsibility. I will, thank you so much, Aunt. After ending the call, felt a growing excitement. She had seen how the other species reacted to the mere mention of predators. She wondered how they would react when they saw a real apex predator up close. Not a hologram or a preserved specimen, but a living, breathing hunter from one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. The next morning, woke early and made her way to the shuttle bay. The station's docking area was busy with ships coming and going, bringing supplies, visitors, and students returning from trips home. Found the bay where Earth transports arrived and waited. A small shuttle with the Earth Embassy's markings landed smoothly. The door opened, and a tired-looking human man in a uniform emerged. He was pushing a large container on a hover cart. You Price, he asked. That's me. Sign here. He held out a data pad. I've been told to inform you that this transport was highly irregular. The embassy had to file special permits for live animal transport. The station's safety committee had concerns. Sign the form. I'm sure they did. They classified these animals as extreme threat level after reviewing the Earth biological database. You're lucky they're just cubs, or they probably wouldn't have allowed them on the station at all. They're perfectly safe, said. They've been hand-raised by humans since they were a few days old. The man shrugged. That's what your aunt said, still be careful. Those things grow up to be killing machines. After he left, approached the container. It was a large metal box with ventilation holes and a transparent panel on one side. Through the panel, she could see two bundles of orange and black fur, curled together and sleeping. Hey, Bobbies, said softly. Wake up, we've got a class to attend. Two heads lifted. Golden eyes blinked at her. Then, recognizing her voice, both cubs began making eager sounds and pressing against the panel, trying to get closer to her. Opened the container's door and was immediately assaulted by tiger cubs. They climbed over each other to reach her, rubbing their heads against her legs and making the rumbling purr sound that tigers use to express contentment. Each cub was about 40 pounds, covered in soft fur with the distinctive orange and black stripes of Bengal tigers. Their paws were enormous for their size, a preview of how large they would eventually grow. I missed you too, laughed, kneeling down to pet them properly. Look at how big you've gotten. Aunt has been feeding you well. Maple, the slightly larger of the two cubs, stood on her hind legs and put her paws on shoulders, trying to lick her face. Copper was busy investigating S's bag, sniffing everything with intense curiosity. Okay, settle down. We need to get to class. looked at the two cubs, considering her options. The container was too bulky to bring to the classroom, and the cubs were too active to walk calmly on leashes. She made a decision. Come on, you two, up. With practiced motions, lifted first Maple and then Copper onto her shoulders. The cubs settled into place immediately, having been carried this way many times before. Their weight was significant but manageable. Their tails hung down past her waist, swishing contentedly. Took a deep breath and headed for the classroom. The hallways of the academy were busy with students moving between classes. As walked, she noticed that people were stopping to stare. Some pressed themselves against the walls. Others hurried in the opposite direction. A group of students saw her coming and actually ran away, their hooves clattering on the metal floor. Kept walking. She was used to getting strange looks from aliens, though this was more extreme than usual. She arrived at classroom 7 a few minutes late. The door slid open, and she stepped inside. The room went completely silent. Every eye, visual sensor, and sensory organ turned toward her, saw her classmates frozen in various poses of shock and fear. Professor Al's mandibles had stopped mid-click. Even the student looked unsettled. "Sorry I'm late," said cheerfully. "The transport shuttle had some delays." No one moved, no one spoke. Was pressed against the far wall, his 3 eyes so wide that white showed all around them. His gray fur had puffed up, making him look twice his normal size. His translator device was making small, stuttering sounds, unable to process whatever he was trying to say. Professor Al finally found his voice. "Miss Price, what are those creatures?" "These are tigers," said. She reached up to scratch behind Maple's ear. The cub made a rumbling sound of pleasure. "Well, tiger cubs specifically. This one is Maple, and the one on my other shoulder is Copper. They're about 4 months old." "Tigers," the professor repeated. The word seemed to mean nothing to him. The professor's teaching assistant, a young named, was frantically searching through a data pad. "I found them, Professor. Earth species. Classification, tigress. Subspecies, Bengal tiger." "Read the file," Al said quietly. Swallowed nervously. "Apex predator of the Indian subcontinent. Solitary hunter. Average adult weight, 200 to 300 kilograms. Adult length, up to 3 meters including tail. Prey items include deer, wild pigs, buffalo, and other large mammals." The assistant paused. "Professor, this file has a warning notation." "What kind of warnings?" "Extreme danger to sentient life. Documented attacks on sapient beings. Not suitable for approach under any circumstances. Recommended minimum safe distance, 1 kilometer. Silence fell again. Every being in the room was staring at the cubs on shoulders. "Miss Price," Professor Al said slowly, "are you telling me that you are carrying 2 juvenile specimens of an apex predator that is considered extremely dangerous to intelligent life?" "That's correct," said. "And you are carrying them on your shoulders, near your head, near your throat and vital organs?" "Yes." "Why?" "Smiled because they like being carried, and they're friendly." The room erupted in noise. Translator devices struggled to keep up with dozens of beings talking at once. Some were asking questions, some were making sounds of fear. Several students were edging toward the door, clearly considering fleeing. "Please, everyone, calm down," Professor Al said, raising his limbs for attention. The noise gradually died down. "Miss Price, I think you need to explain further. The Galactic database classifies these creatures as among the most dangerous on your planet. How can you possibly describe them as friendly?" Carefully lowered herself to the floor, sitting cross-legged with the cubs sliding down from her shoulders into her lap. Maple immediately flopped onto her back, exposing her belly. Copper curled up against side and began grooming her paw. "These two are special," explained. "They were born at a wildlife rehabilitation center on Earth. Their mother was killed by poachers when they were only a few days old. My aunt, who runs the center, took them in and has been raising them by hand ever since." "Raising predators by hand," Al said. "This is a practice on your world. More common than you might think. When predator cubs are orphaned or abandoned, humans often step in to care for them. We feed them, keep them warm, and socialize them with human contact. Cubs raised this way bond with their human caretakers and see them as family rather than as prey or threats. A Florian student raised a crystalline limb. But they are predators. How do you know they will not attack you when they are larger? Predatory instincts are usually innate and cannot be suppressed. You're right that they're predators and always will be, agreed. These two will grow up to be powerful hunters, but predatory behavior is about more than instinct. It's also about learning. Wild tiger cubs learn to hunt by watching their mothers and practicing on small prey. They learn what is food and what is not food through experience. She gestured at the cubs in her lap. Maple and Copper have never seen a wild tiger hunt. They've never had to catch their own food. They've been fed by humans since the day they were born. To them, humans are the source of food, comfort, and safety. They've been taught that humans are family. This is remarkable, Al said. He had moved slightly closer, though he was still keeping a careful distance. You are describing a form of behavioral modification through early socialization. Exactly. It's not that their predator instincts are gone, it's that those instincts are channeled differently. When Maple and Copper play fight with me, they're using the same movements they would use when hunting. But they've learned to control their strength. They know the difference between playing and hunting. To demonstrate, began playing with the cubs. She wiggled her fingers in front of Maple and the cub pounced, wrapping her paws around his hand and gnawing gently. Despite the cub's sharp teeth, she was being remarkably careful. See how she's mouthing my hand but not actually biting down hard? Said. Cubs learn bite inhibition through play. When she bites too hard, I make a pain sound and stop playing. She's learned that gentle play means the game continues, while rough play ends the game. You are allowing an apex predator to practice attack movements on your body, observed the student. As a member of a predator species myself, I find this extremely surprising. Among my people, we abandoned such behaviors many generations ago because we recognized their danger. Humans never really abandoned our predator behaviors, said. We just express them differently. We're still hunters at heart. We still enjoy the chase, the challenge, the satisfaction of success. We just channel those drives into other activities now: sports, business, exploration, competition. Copper had climbed up onto his shoulder again and was nuzzling against her cheek. The cub's rough tongue licked his face, and she laughed. We also never lost our ability to bond with other predators, continued. Dogs are descended from wolves. House cats are descended from small desert predators. We've been living alongside dangerous hunters for thousands of years. We understand them in a way that prey species usually don't. Because you are predators yourselves, said. He had crept slightly closer, though he was still trembling. You understand predator thinking because you think like predators. In some ways, yes. We know what it feels like to hunt, to chase, to catch. We can predict predator behavior because we share some of those same instincts. And that understanding lets us build relationships with other predators that would be impossible for species who have only ever been prey. Professor Al had been recording the entire exchange. His compound eyes were bright with interest. This is fascinating. The implications for psychology are significant. Miss Price, would you be willing to tell us more about the history of human-predator relationships? I'd be happy to, said. She stood up, the cubs adjusting their positions automatically. Maple settled back onto her shoulders while Copper explored the nearby floor, sniffing at the containment field around another student's display. The best example is dogs, began. Dogs are descended from wolves, which are pack hunters. They work together to bring down prey much larger than themselves. Their social structure is based on cooperation and loyalty. Humans started interacting with wolves about 40,000 years ago. At first, it was probably a relationship of convenience. Wolves would follow human hunting parties and eat the scraps. Humans noticed that wolves were good at tracking prey and warning of dangers. Over time, the two species began working together. Wolves that were friendly toward humans had better access to food and shelter. Humans who tolerated wolves had better hunters and guards. Each generation, the friendliest wolves and the most wolf-tolerant humans were more successful. Over thousands of years, this led to wolves evolving into dogs. Today, dogs are the most common domesticated animal on Earth. There are hundreds of different breeds, designed for everything from hunting to herding to companionship. They live in human homes, eat human food, and are considered family members by most of their owners. The students were listening with intense interest. Even the most nervous seemed fascinated. Cats are another example, continued. Small wild cats lived near human settlements and hunted the rodents that ate human grain stores. Humans tolerated the cats because they provided pest control. Over time, cats became domesticated as well. Today, they're the second most popular pet on Earth. But those are small animals, a student pointed out. What about large predators like these tigers? Surely humans cannot domesticate such dangerous creatures. Domestication takes thousands of years of selective breeding, agreed. We haven't domesticated tigers in that sense, but we have formed relationships with them. Throughout human history, people have kept big cats as symbols of power and status. Kings and emperors had tigers and lions in their courts. Modern humans keep big cats in zoos and sanctuaries where they can be studied and protected. She reached up to stroke Maple's head. And some humans, like my aunt, dedicate their lives to caring for big cats that have been orphaned or injured. These relationships are different from domestication. They're more like partnerships. The human and the big cat learn to understand each other. They build trust through repeated positive interactions. Is it not dangerous? Asked a Florian. You said these creatures have attacked and killed humans. It can be very dangerous, admitted. Wild tigers are not safe to be around. Even captive tigers that have been raised by humans can be dangerous if they're not handled properly. Every year, people are injured or killed by big cats they thought were tame. Then why do it? Asked. Why take the risk? Thought about the question. It was something she had asked herself many times. Because the reward is worth it, she finally said. When you earn the trust of an apex predator, you experience something incredible. You connect with a creature that could easily kill you but chooses not to. You see the world through their eyes, understand how they think and feel. You become part of their family. She looked down at Copper, who had returned to her side and was leaning against her leg. These two trust me completely. They come to me for food, for comfort, for play. When they're scared, they hide behind me. When they're happy, they purr and rub against me. That bond is something precious. It's worth being careful for. Professor Al stepped closer, close enough to get a good look at the cubs. His compound eyes examined them from every angle. May I ask a question about their physical capabilities? He said. Of course. The database mentions that adult tigers can weigh up to 300 kilograms and take down prey several times their own size. How is this possible? What adaptations make them such effective predators? Smiled, this was one of her favorite topics. Tigers are basically perfect hunting machines, she said. Everything about them is designed for killing large prey. Let me show you. She gently took one of Copper's paws and extended it so the class could see. Look at these paws. Even at this age, they're huge. When she's fully grown, each paw will be about the size of a dinner plate. The claws can extend to several centimeters in length and are strong enough to tear through tough hide and muscle. She moved to show Copper's head. Their jaws are incredibly powerful. An adult tiger's bite force is around 1,000 pounds per square inch. That's enough to crush bone. Their teeth are designed to grip prey and deliver a killing bite to the throat or spine. Their bodies are pure muscle, she continued. A tiger can leap over 10 meters horizontally and 3 meters vertically. They can reach speeds of 60 kilometers per hour in short bursts. They're strong enough to drag prey weighing several hundred kilograms. But perhaps their most impressive adaptation is stealth. Tigers are ambush predators. They have to get close to their prey before attacking. Their striped fur provides camouflage in tall grass and forest shadows. They can move almost silently despite their size. Most prey animals don't know a tiger is there until it's already attacking. The class was silent, absorbing this information. Several students looked at the cubs with new eyes, seeing past the soft fur and playful behavior to the deadly potential beneath. These cubs are 4 months old, said. They weigh about 40 pounds each. In 2 years, they could weigh 400 pounds, Every adaptation I just described will be fully developed. They will be apex predators capable of taking down almost any prey animal on Earth. And yet you carry them on your shoulders, Al said. And yet I carry them on my shoulders, agreed. Because right now, they're bobbies who want belly rubs and warm places to sleep. They'll grow into powerful predators, but they'll also remember the human who fed them and played with them and kept them safe. That relationship will last their whole lives. A student from a species didn't recognize spoke up. You mentioned that humans are predators as well. What kind of predators are you? The database says your species has no claws, weak teeth, and relatively slow running speed. You're right that we're not impressive in terms of natural weapons, said. Humans can't outrun most predators, and we can't outfight them with our bare hands. But we have two advantages that make us incredibly dangerous. She tapped her head. First, our brains. Humans are intelligent enough to make tools that extend our capabilities far beyond what our bodies can do alone. We make weapons that can kill at a distance. We make traps that catch prey without us being present. We make vehicles that let us travel faster and farther than any animal. And second, she continued, we're persistence predators. Our ancestors didn't chase prey and catch it quickly like a tiger does. They followed prey for hours or even days, tracking it by its footprints and droppings. Most animals can't regulate their body temperature while running the way humans can. They overheat and have to rest. Humans would just keep walking, always following, never letting the prey escape. Eventually, the prey would collapse from exhaustion and heat stroke. Our ancestors would catch up and finish it off with simple weapons. This is called persistence hunting, and humans are the best at it of any species on Earth. That is terrifying, said quietly. Is it? Asked. I suppose it depends on your perspective. To us, it's just how we survived. Every species develops strategies for getting food. Ours involved being patient and never giving up. I think I understand something now, said. Your species survived on Earth not by avoiding predators, but by being predators yourselves. You competed with creatures like these tigers rather than fleeing from them. Exactly. And sometimes, instead of competing, we cooperated. We saw other predators and thought, what if we could work together instead of against each other? That's how we got dogs. That's how we got cats. That's how we ended up with tiger cubs sitting on my shoulders. Professor Al had been recording everything. He paused the recording and addressed the class. I think we can all agree that Miss Price's presentation has been extremely educational. However, I would like to continue with the other presentations as well. Miss Price, would you mind if your tigers remained in the classroom while other students present? I think having them here will provide useful context for our discussions. That's fine with me, said. They're pretty calm as long as I'm nearby. The other presentations continued, but it was clear that the class's attention kept drifting back to the tiger cubs. Maple had fallen asleep on Slap, her massive paws twitching as she dreamed. Copper was exploring the room, sniffing at various displays, but always returning to side. The student presented a preserved razor serpent, explaining its hunting techniques and venom capabilities. A showed holographic footage of sand runners hunting in packs across desert plains. The Florian displayed her world's silicon-based ambush predator, which could disguise itself as ordinary rock formations and wait for years for prey to approach. The presented information about his own species' predatory ancestors, creatures that had hunted in the dark caves of there. He also showed a containment sphere holding a living specimen of a cave predator, a creature that appeared as a swirling mass of darkness with teeth. Each presentation was interesting, but none generated the reaction that tigers had caused. Students kept glancing at the cubs, watching their movements, trying to understand how such dangerous creatures could be so calm and friendly. After the last presentation, Professor Al called for discussion. What we have seen today demonstrates the incredible diversity of predatory evolution across the galaxy, he said. Each world has developed its own solutions to the challenge of hunting prey. But I think Miss Price's presentation raises a unique question that I would like us all to consider. He turned to, Miss Price has shown us that her species, despite being relatively weak and slow compared to many predators, has developed a unique adaptation. They have learned to form bonds with other predators. They turn potential competitors into allies. This is unusual in galactic terms. Most species either flee from predators or fight them. The idea of befriending them is almost unknown. I would like to hear what other students think about this strategy. A Florian spoke first. From a survival perspective, it seems risky but potentially rewarding. If the predator remains friendly, you gain a powerful ally. If it turns hostile, you are in immediate danger. The key factor seems to be whether the relationship can be reliably maintained. Humans have been doing it for 40,000 years, pointed out. We've figured out how to make it work reliably. The key is starting young, building trust through positive interactions, and never forgetting that you're dealing with a predator. Respect goes both ways. I still find it difficult to understand, a student said. My entire being screams that I should run from creatures like those tigers. How do you overcome that fear? Maybe because we're predators too, said. Fear of other predators exists, but it's balanced by our predator instincts. We see a tiger and think dangerous, but also powerful and impressive, and sometimes I want one. The desire to connect with powerful creatures is part of our nature. There is also the matter of control, said. Understand predator psychology. We know the desire to dominate, to prove oneself superior. Forming a bond with an apex predator could be seen as the ultimate expression of dominance. You are showing that you can tame something that should be untamable. That's part of it for some humans, admitted. But for me and my aunt, it's more about connection than control. We don't want to dominate these tigers. We want to understand them, care for them, and help them thrive. The relationship is a partnership, not a master-servant dynamic. Maple had woken up and was yawning hugely, showing her developing fangs. Several students flinched at the sight. She's just sleepy, said, scratching behind the cub's ears. She's not threatening anyone. I believe that, Professor Al said. But I think the instinctive reaction of your classmates demonstrates an important point. For most species, seeing those teeth triggers a fear response that is very difficult to overcome. Your ability to look at those teeth and feel affection rather than terror is genuinely unusual. Humans are pretty unusual in general, said with a smile. We evolved on a world full of dangerous creatures and somehow decided that the solution was to make friends with as many of them as possible. It's worked out pretty well for us so far. The class period was coming to an end. Professor Al gave a brief summary of what they had learned and reminded students about the upcoming examination on predator evolution. As the students began to leave, many of them paused to take one more look at the tiger cubs. Approached cautiously. His 3 eyes were still wide and his fur was slightly puffed up, but he was clearly making an effort to stay calm. I have been thinking, he said, about what you said about trust and bonds and partnerships. What are you thinking about? My people have always survived by running away. We see danger and we flee. It is our nature, bred into us over millions of years. But today I watched you interact with creatures that should terrify me, and I saw something different. I saw trust. Real trust between a predator and its chosen companion. Waited, letting him work through his thoughts. I wonder, continued, if my people have been too focused on running, if perhaps there is value in standing still sometimes, in facing danger and trying to understand it rather than simply fleeing. I'm not saying you should go try to pet a sand runner, said gently. No, of course not, but perhaps I could try to understand them better, study their behavior rather than simply avoiding them, learn about them rather than just fearing them. Looked at the tiger cubs. Your aunt cares for these predators. She has dedicated her life to helping them. If she can do that with creatures this dangerous, perhaps I can find the courage to at least study the predators of my own world. Smiled, that sounds like a good start. And if you ever want to learn more about Earth predators, I'm happy to teach you. I would like that, said. Perhaps next time you could tell me more about these wolves who became dogs. The idea of predators choosing to live with prey is fascinating. They didn't really see us as prey, said. Wolves hunt animals much larger than humans usually. They saw us more as potential competitors or potential allies. They chose to be allies because it benefited both species. Even so, it is remarkable. On my world, the idea of a predator species willingly joining with a prey species would be unthinkable. It challenges everything I thought I knew about the natural order. Maybe the natural order is more flexible than you thought, suggested. Considered this. Then slowly, he reached out one trembling limb toward Maple. The cub sniffed at his fur, then rubbed her head against his hand. Froze, his eyes wider than ever. For a long moment, he stood perfectly still while a tiger cub nuzzled against him. Then, very slowly, an expression crossed his face that his translator could only render as wonder. "She is so soft," he whispered, "and warm. I did not expect her to be warm." "Mammals are warm-blooded," explained. "We maintain a constant body temperature. Tigers run a bit hotter than humans do." "This is remarkable." Let his limb rest on Maple's head, gently stroking her fur. The cub purred loudly, vibrating against his touch. "She likes this. I can tell she likes this." "She loves being petted. Both of them do. They're still bobbies, really. They want affection and attention, just like any young creature." Copper had noticed interacting with Maple and came over to investigate. She sniffed at his legs, then looked up at him with her golden eyes, made a small sound of fear but held still. "She is looking at me. Is that threatening?" "No, she's just curious. She's never seen a before. You're new and interesting to her." Watched as Copper circled, examining him from all angles. "Just stay calm and let her satisfy her curiosity. She won't hurt you." After a thorough sniffing, Copper apparently decided that was acceptable. She flopped down on his feet and began grooming herself. "She is sitting on my feet," said, his voice somewhere between terror and delight. "She likes you. That's her way of saying you're part of the group now." "I am part of a tiger's group," looked at. "My parents will never believe this. They will think I have gone insane." "Tell them it was an educational experience. You were learning about bonding techniques." "That is technically accurate," agreed. He looked down at the cub on his feet, then at the cub under his hand. "This is the most frightening and most wonderful thing I have ever experienced." They stood there for a while, the human, and the two tiger cubs. Other students passed by and stared, but neither nor paid them any attention. Something important was happening, a small step toward understanding between species that had evolved very different responses to danger. Eventually, Professor Al approached. His mandibles clicked with what seemed like approval. "An excellent first day for this unit," he said. "Miss Price, I would like to include your presentation in my records for future classes, with your permission, of course." "I'd be honored," said. "And I notice you have overcome your initial fear response. This shows admirable adaptability." Looked down at the cubs again. "I have learned something important today, Professor. I have learned that fear is not always the correct response. Sometimes, if you are brave enough to stand still, you discover that the scary thing is not as scary as you thought." "A valuable lesson indeed," Al agreed. "Perhaps there is more that our species can learn from humanity. Their approach to predators is unique, but their willingness to face fear and seek understanding is something we might all benefit from." Gathered up the cubs, lifting them back onto her shoulders. They settled into place automatically, comfortable and content. She had a transport shuttle to catch and two baby predators to return to their caretaker. "Thank you for letting me bring them," she said to the professor. "I know it was unusual." "Unusual, yes, but also enlightening. Please convey my thanks to your aunt for allowing us this opportunity." "I will." Walked out of the classroom, the weight of two tiger cubs warm against her shoulders. Students still stopped to stare as she passed, but she noticed that a few of them seemed more curious than afraid now. Perhaps her presentation had made a difference. Perhaps some of them were starting to see predators as something other than pure threat. She thought about what it said, about finding the courage to understand rather than simply fear. It was a small change, but small changes could add up over time. 40,000 years ago, a few humans and a few wolves had decided to try cooperating instead of competing. That small change had transformed both species forever. Maybe something similar could happen here, in this school where beings from dozens of worlds came together to learn. Maybe understanding could grow, trust could develop, and bonds could form between species that had never interacted before. It would take time, it would take patience, it would take a willingness to face fear and keep going anyway. But if there was one thing humans were good at, it was persistence. They would keep trying, keep reaching out, keep building connections. One relationship at a time, one conversation at a time, one brave petting a tiger cub for the first time. That was how change happened. Not all at once, but gradually, through countless small moments of courage and connection. Smiled as she walked toward the shuttle bay. The cubs purred against her neck, content and trusting. Some things were worth being patient for. When she reached the shuttle bay, the transport officer was waiting with the travel container. He looked at the cubs on her shoulders with a mixture of concern and fascination. "How did it go?" he asked. "Really well," said. "I think I might have changed some minds today." "About tigers?" "About predators in general, and about humans, maybe. We have a reputation for being strange and unpredictable. I think I gave them a better understanding of why we are the way we are." The officer nodded slowly. "You know, when I first got assigned to the Earth Embassy on this station, I thought it would be boring, just paperwork and bureaucracy. But every day I learn something new about how aliens see us, and every day I'm reminded that we really are different from most of them." "Different isn't bad," said, "just different." "No, it's not bad. It's actually pretty interesting." He helped her secure the cubs in their travel container. They were sleepy now, tired from all the attention and exploration. "Safe travels, Miss Price, and tell your aunt I said those are some impressive predators she's raising." "I will." The shuttle ride back to Earth would take several hours. Settled into her seat and watched through the viewport as the Academy station shrank to a point of light among the stars. Somewhere in that station, students from dozens of species were thinking about what they had seen today. Some of them were probably still frightened. Some of them were probably curious. And at least one of them, a nervous with 3 eyes and trembling limbs, had discovered that fear could be overcome. Closed her eyes and let herself drift toward sleep. Tomorrow there would be more classes, more lessons, more opportunities to share what Earth and humanity had to offer. But for now, she was content. She had done something important today. She had shown a room full of aliens that the scary things in the universe were not always as scary as they seemed. That trust could be built between the most unlikely partners. That reaching out in friendship was sometimes braver and more effective than running away or fighting. These were human lessons, learned over thousands of years of coexistence with the dangerous creatures of Earth. Now those lessons were spreading outward, into the galaxy, carried by young humans like who were willing to walk into a room full of terrified aliens with 2 apex predators draped across their shoulders. It was a strange legacy, perhaps, but it was a human legacy and was proud to be part of it. The shuttle engines hummed softly. The stars wheeled slowly past the viewport, and in their container, 2 tiger cubs slept peacefully, dreaming of warm hands and gentle voices and the human who had brought them on an adventure to the stars. Some partnerships were worth crossing galaxies for. This was one of them,